Hello everyone, welcome to my very first video. I'm kind of nervous to share my work with you guys like this, but here we go! Today I'll be making the beloved Miss Valerie Frizzle from the Magic School Bus book and TV series. I'll be using this Draculaura doll from the Monster High Ghoul's Best Friend line, but not her little pooch. Bye little guy! Okay, that was a little mean. I'm kind of sorry. I don't think she's happy with me. Let's move on. I've chosen this doll because I felt her face mold was the best match for Miss Frizzle. Unfortunately, her skin and hair aren't. So I'll have to fix those, which means it's time to start prepping. Once she comes down. Looks like we're good. Let's get started. First step of prep is to undress the doll. It's a good idea to save all these accessories and clothes. You can take apart the outfits to help make patterns and repaint the accessories. This part of the process is kind of nostalgic. It takes me back to the days of playing with Barbies with my little sister. Though, ours didn't come with removable hands. Makes it easier to dress them, but it is a little weird. Next is getting the head ready. I use a blow dryer to soften the head for removal and acetone nail polish to take off the factory paint. 100% acetone makes it easier, but it may just be a matter of what you can get. The paint comes off fairly easy, but you really need to get in those nooks and crannies to get all of it off. Next is hair removal. You'll need scissors, pliers, and maybe something for poking the hair through when you have trouble. This is my least favorite part because I always feel guilty taking off their pretty hair. But if I want to give Miss Frizzle her signature curls, off it goes! Removing the plugs is probably the most satisfying part of prep. Unfortunately, I did it all out of frame. Now we have a nice clean head that I won't be using. I tried to do a bunch of modifications and painted the skin, but it didn't work at all. So I stole the head from this other Draculaura doll I had from the Electrified series. Unfortunately, I got overzealous taking off the head and I ended up with the split. Kind of crazy how deep you can see, but it makes it easier to take out the plugs again. With everything cleaned up, I used a thread and needle I already had threaded to stitch the main rip back together. I tried to use E6000 to glue together the hairline, but it didn't work. E6000 doesn't hold on to the plastic well enough. So, I turned to my best friend, Insmorph Moldable Plastic, which I'll leave a link to below, to seal it all together. The vinyl just grabs onto the hot plastic like a permanent magnet. Which is how I ruined the first head, actually. I got overexcited about how well it worked and did too much that I couldn't fix. Oh well. Here you can see the beads are stuck to the inside of the hairline. Next, I reheat the head to get the beads moldable again. That way I can fuse them properly. Assisted by my trusty seam ripper, I folded the beads onto the rest of the head to close the rip. It was a bit awkward, but the end result makes it all worth it. I can't reroute this head like I wanted, but it holds together. To get Miss Frizzle's signature quirky curls, I decided to use a really different kind of weft. Instead of brushing the fibers out, I separated the yarn into the four strands and glued it down with all its kinks. It was tricky getting the wefts to the right thickness to really cover the head, but it makes all the difference. To make the wig, I got a spare head, my stringy wefts, some normal ones for fill, a hot glue gun and mat, some tape to make the cap, elastics, and cling wrap to protect the head. Now I shall awkwardly wrap the head and then put on the cap. I learned this method from Poplin Atir. Atir? This lady. She's got a video for these quick wigs that you should check out. I'll link it below. With the cap done, I start working with the wefts. Now you should trim the excess glue before you get to this point, but I forgot to do that. First, I glue the curly wefts. I glue them down the opposite direction I'm going to have them in the final style, so that when they're pulled back, it'll look like a natural hairline. At this point, I realized I don't have enough curly wefts, but then I remembered I made a test one and ran off to find it. With the curly wefts all stamped down with my trusty scissors so I don't burn my fingers, I can now turn to the fluffy wefts. I glued these on the same way as the curly wefts to cover the wig cap and give the wig more volume. With all the wefts on, I whip the head, and you get a view of that natural hairline I was talking about. Even with the fluffy wefts, I was worried you'd be able to see the wig cap, so I decided to paint it. And then later, I realized I should have hot glued it to give it support. Well, to give the hair more life, I colored it with chalk pastels. It got the dummy head a little messy, but worked out really well. The style was hard to figure out, so I did it off camera. Now we start the face up, which I actually started off camera. I tried to do some contouring, but I was a little heavy-handed and it came out darker than I liked. So here I tried to soften it. Came out looking better, but I should definitely learn how to contour better before I try that again. Now it's time for the detail work, with this really awful angle. I was trying to keep it out of the way, but it just looks stupid and doesn't catch much of what I'm doing. Anyway, I started off with blushing with pink. Here I blend some gold, orange, and brown to get a copper color for her eyeshadow. This was about the only clear makeup decision I had for her face up. Oh look, more pink! Looking back, I probably should have chosen a different blush color. This is a Draculaura doll, after all. The last thing she needs is more pink. Here I used white to start blocking in the eyes. The key to a good face-up is layers, and here I layer in more eyeshadow. Here comes the mortal enemies of all doll repainters, eyebrows. As I was working on the face-up, I found this really great cheat for eyebrows, but for some reason I didn't use it. Ah yes, more pink. At least it's on her lips this time. Now I've got my dark brown pencil to try and define her smile. Now some shade in the corners of her mouth to turn them up. I felt she wouldn't be Miss Frizzle if she didn't have the biggest smile I could give her. This means a bit more work, but it's well worth it. Suddenly, a glove and an eraser to help me clean everything up. The glove is supposed to keep my oils off the face, but I don't think that works when I only have one glove. Now I crack out my white pencil to brighten up the eyes and add some highlights all over the face. These watercolor pencils are not the greatest. They're supposed to be for doing stamp up and crafting projects, not drawing on a face. I'm gonna get hold of some nicer ones that don't shatter as soon as I start drawing with them. It was a real pain in the butt. Here I start adding detail to the eyebrows. I tried to make it a gradient, but that was a bit ambitious for me. They came out okay, but I've never been really happy with them. I've got the dark brown again to start deepening the eyelashes and try to bring them out. Here's where I realize I've mucked up and dipped my hands in the black pastel and gotten it all over the chin. It does not really come off, but I do my best to make it less noticeable. This is not the first time I've done this, so I should probably think about changing the way I set up my supplies before I do the next face up. I need to think about a lot of things before I do my next face up. Last, we start filling in the eye. I got a dark green to start outlining the iris, and then a lighter green to fill it in. I skipped filming a few layers and added some metallic watercolors to give the eyes and lips a little extra glimmer. Now I'm going in with white acrylic to add the shine and brighten up the sclera. I was a little heavy-handed with the white, so I had to go back and clean it up, but it gives a great result. Now I add black to darken up the lashes. This isn't something I usually think to do, but I felt it was a good idea. I just couldn't get it black enough with just the pencils. Of course, now it's glaringly obvious that the eyes are not the same shape. Not proud of this, but it gives her an interesting expression, right? The finished face-up, minus the gloss, which I do off-screen because it takes about an hour to dry. Boy. The dress I had to start from basically scratch, which meant a lot of prototypes. But then I settled on this pattern. I embroidered the pattern to give it a real handmade touch. Then cut it all out before adding the trims and hem, and then sewing it all together in this cute dress. After several failed attempts to make shoes, I decided to use Dracula's originals. I primed and painted them with spray paint because I was in a rush. The final details were her little rock decorations. I used my multiple plastic again and nail polish. With everything ready, it's time to put her together. All finished and ready for her close-up. Ignore the shoes. I really shouldn't have used spray paint. Well, now that she's all together, it's time for her photo shoot.
Seatbelts, everyone! Please let this be a normal field trip with a friend? No way!
Cruising on down Main Street, you're relaxed and feeling good. Next thing that you know, you're seeing the push in the neighborhood, surfing on the sound wave, swinging through the stars. Take a left at Julie Desmond, take your second right past Mars on the magic school bus. Alligator nostril, climb on the magic school bus. Make a plane turn two,